Good to see you again, friend. Today, I have two real-life stories for you that might give you the creeps. So sit down at the fireplace with me, get comfortable, and enjoy. The three of us were basically inseparable growing up because of our ages being so close together and the fact that we were all girls under the same household. Our home was across from the elementary school we all attended, and sometimes we would play there when the school was closed, but other times we would walk to the nearby park to play. The park wasn't too far from where I lived, so it was a quick walk for all of us, worth the time it took to be able to climb on the playset and enjoy the park's other recreational objects. I don't remember what we were talking about at the time, but we weren't far from the park when this person in a car pulled up to us. None of us had seen her before, so when she claimed to know our grandma, it threw us off. She said she lived not far from us and she offered us a ride home, but in our guts, I think we all realized something wasn't quite right. Despite not being the most socially aware kids, we refused, but despite the refusal, she kept insisting, saying that our grandma was worried about us, that she needed us home and all that. We continued to say no to her, and despite continuing to ask, we could hear the growing frustration in her voice. I don't remember too much from here, but the school was right behind us, and it was a fairly big school, with multiple sections and buildings spanning behind a metal fence. We all knew we needed to get away from her somehow, so we started keeping an eye out for something that would help put some distance between us and her. And what popped up? A gate. A gate to the school, practically indistinguishable from the fencing aside from the hinges and the metal chains used when they would actually lock it. And thankfully, for us, this wasn't one of those times. We opened the gate as quickly as possible and ran inside, slamming it behind us in case she decided to give chase, and ran as fast as we could across the school grounds. We only stopped when we were on the opposite side of school and hid in the school bathrooms as we waited patiently to see if she had followed us. It felt like hours before we felt it was safe enough for us to come out, and yet it was probably only 20 minutes at most. Eventually we got up to peek out of our stall just to be sure she wasn't quietly waiting for us to show ourselves, and a huge wave of relief came over us as we saw the completely empty bathroom before us. Before long, we decided heading home was the best option for us, since we didn't need that lady to show up again. We were a bit upset about not having to gotten to play at the park like we planned, but that wasn't something some video games and snacks couldn't fix. I honestly wonder at the time if we had truly comprehended the situation we had been in, but as kids, I suppose we didn't think about it too much, never even telling our moms or anyone else in the family about our experience. I also only realized recently that she had offered us a ride home, and yet her car was going in the opposite direction of our house, towards the park we were heading to. Some details are a bit fuzzy as I am an adult now, and it was so long ago, but this memory has been in my head all these years. And despite the love of my life confirming that this was not a normal experience, I can't help but feel like I truly misread the situation. So this story happened about 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but this is the single most mind-boggling thing that I have ever experienced. It's also important to note that it happened in mid-December. I'm from Iowa, and the winters here are cold at night. Like if you get stuck outside, you will die of cold. And the snowfall makes everything dead silent. You can hear anything and everything inside the house, and even immediately outside of it. Well, me and my best friend were hanging out in the family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night playing video games. We were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us is because my mother went from work straight to a bar to grab a few drinks with coworkers. So me and my friend thought it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little. As we were sitting there, opening up the first bottle, I hear the door at the garage open and slam shut. I immediately go, "Oh shoot," and start looking for places to hide the bottle. My friend then says, "I thought you said your mom was supposed to be out all night." "She was," I replied, I then heard a few heavy stumps and hear my mother yell out, "Jackson, anyone home?" I yell back up at the stairs, "Yup, just hanging out in the basement." I hear a few more steps from the garage door towards the stairs and she yells out again, "Can you come help me with something? I need you up here." I reply while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle, "Yup, give me just a minute." Then there was silence for about 20 seconds. "Anyone down there with you?" she yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off of my mother's. This was the first thing that should have told me everything wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over. Our house was a very open house to all family and friends. And the voice, it was just wrong, like it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. Weirded out, I replied back, "Just Jacob." After I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the stairs to the next level. Now as I was walking up the steps, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house and the slight electric twinge that something isn't right. When I got to the top of the steps, I noticed that the kitchen is completely dark, and I was starting to feel very creeped out. I walked over to the kitchen yelling out, "Mom, where are you?" There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twinge turn into full needles and my adrenaline kicking in full force. I have to get out of here as fast as possible. My mother was not home. I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way. "What's wrong?" Jacob says. "My mom's not home," I reply as fast as I can, looking for my truck keys. "What do you mean? You were just talking with her." I could see the confusion in his face. "There's no one home. We need to leave now." I walk towards the stairs, and that's when I see my dog and cat, both shaking, fearing for their lives. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if we left, something would happen. "Are we leaving?" Jacob said, still confused. "No, I can't leave them here alone. Something is really off. I'm gonna call my mom and figure this out." I pull out my phone and call my mom. She picks up immediately. "Jackson, what's going on?" she answers. "Mom, were you just home? I heard you yelling for me from the second level." My mom answered, "No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling very well. Are you okay? What do you mean you heard me?" I fill her in on the whole story and she rushes home. Jacob and I stayed in the basement with the animals until she got home. But before she did, you could hear something up the stairs. Not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air. When she got home, you could feel the thing leave us just as quick as it came, like an overbearing predatory presence had just flown away. We have still never figured what was it, or what was going on. My mother has passed away now, and I have moved away to Arizona. But whenever I go back to Iowa, and I see Jacob, he still gets creeped out by what happened. I will never truly know what happened, but I know that whatever it was that had my mother's voice, it was evil and it was hungry. Thank you very much for sitting down with me and listening to these stories. I hope you had fun. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.